All right, greetings everyone. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And we're going to start tonight with a moment of silence and then Pledge of Allegiance, and then I'm going to ask our host to say a few words of welcome. So if you would please join me in standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, and next we'll do roll call.
Commissioner Jones? Here. Commissioner Kelly?
Here.
Commissioner Moody? Present. Commissioner Lanier?
Present.
Commissioner Ruppert? Here. Mayor Bliss?
Here. So before we get started with our first opportunity
You
for...
want to excuse Commissioner
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I get a motion to excuse Commissioner O'Connor?
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, so before we get started tonight with our formal agenda, I want to take this moment to welcome you to our Commission Night Out. We're in one of my favorite places in our city, Dominican Center here at Marywood. And so we're going to ask Sister Maureen to come and share with us a few words of welcome, maybe even share a little bit about the history of this amazing space.
May I borrow Commissioner Jones's microphone?
Sure, or you're welcome to stand up here if you want as well.
Okay.
Either one, whichever you prefer.
I'll face everybody if
Okay,
that's all
great.
right.
Then use Commissioner Jones's.
Okay, thanks,
Perfect.
Mayor. Yeah. So good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, city staff, and everybody in attendance. And welcome to Dominican Center at Marywood on the campus of the Grand Rapids Dominican Sisters. Dominican Center is one of our ministries. This campus is our home. I am Sister Maureen Geary. I'm a member of our leadership team, and I extend the welcome today on behalf of our prioress, Sister Sandra Delgado, who couldn't be here this evening, and all of our sisters and associates, and Margarita Solis Diel over here, who's our director of Dominican Center. We're really happy to have you with us, and delighted to host this evening's City Commission meeting. As residents of the city of Grand Rapids for almost 130 years, with almost 100 years right here at this campus at Marywood, we were called to Grand Rapids in 1889 to staff St. John's Home, care for orphans and children. We founded Aquinas College, our near neighbor down the street, have taught in many schools, done social work, healing ministry, and many things in the city. And I think today for our gathering, we can attest that place matters. It roots us deeply, both in conviction and commitment. It causes us to invest in many ways in relationship with all of our sisters and brothers who reside in this wonderful city. It is our hope that the meeting this evening will be fruitful, tending to the common good, and improving the quality of life for all. We thank you for gracing us with your presence, Mayor, Commissioners, staff, and everybody in attendance. Please make yourself at home in our home. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Thank you. All right, next that will take us to our first opportunity for public comment. So if this is your first time here at one of our commission meetings, I'll just walk you through the agenda so that you're familiar with the process. So there are multiple opportunities for public comment. The very first one is if you are here to speak on anything that we're actually voting on tonight. So earlier today, we had a number of standing committee meetings where we talked about and discussed and voted on items. So you'll see a whole list of those on the agenda. And so if you're here tonight to speak about something that we're actually going to vote on, then I'll open up that opportunity for public comment momentarily. Then we have, we don't have any public hearings, scheduled public hearings tonight. So if you're here to speak about something other than what's on the agenda, then that opportunity for public comment will be later on after we get through the rest of the items. Okay, so we'll open up the first opportunity for public comment, and I'll tell you a few rules about public comment in this space. One, we really want to make sure that this is a safe place for everyone, and also that people who want to be heard have a chance to be heard by their elected body. And so we ask that you come up to the podium, that you share your name, the city that you live in. For the first opportunity for public comment, we ask that you specifically say what item you're speaking to. So if you look at the agenda, if you're here to talk about fiscal item number 2, we ask you just point that out for us, and then you'll be given up to 3 minutes to speak. And so right now, I'll open up that first public comment period. So if you're here tonight to speak on anything that we're voting on, now's an opportunity to come forward. Do you have a sign-in?
Yeah, it's on the podium.
One other thing is that there's a sign-in on the podium, and we ask that you write your name so that our wonderful city clerk can get your name right in the minutes. So we'll open up this public comment. Mr. Miller, are you coming up? Okay.
Good evening, fellow citizens. This is the House of the People. Watchdog Miller reporting. Normally at this point in the proceedings, I welcome you to Simon Legree Square, where our bus routes don't go, our local bus routes, including the 14. Mayor Bliss thinks so highly of Marywood that she banishes your Route 14, the non-bachelor 14, beneath the wealthy viaducts. I mean, over to Founders Brewing, and on 9A1, Verhoost is a wholly owned subsidiary of Rockford Construction. He sold out his old neighborhood, Oakdale, Oakdale, Madison Square, numerous times, Oakdale Hall on the 19, Pastor Moody, 3, I favor 9B3 and 6. The challenge there on 6 is how did it become a brownfield matter? You had it was a seminary for decades, and then Pastor Sapp had it for a while. And why is it another brownfield? On C1, it's unclear. 409 Fifth Street, that could be more descriptive of what that building involves, since apparently there's no picture above. Next, 5, 6, 7, that's the 9-story shoe factory. They wanted to go 43 stories on the city's tallest building, but it was a very homely building, and in a long-time historic district for decades. 5, 6, 7 is back, so for the benefit of people here, these are to clear the buildings. What I object to on that building is they want to put in a ugly 2-story walkway, when just behind it, the CWD walkway is 5 stories high. It's got another 3-story walkway over the arena. That's way too low for that building. Next, 11 looks like a low ball. You're lowballing that bid, and so you come back after the other bidders have disappeared. Four, I've already addressed, 100 Burton Street. 11, medical marijuana, fully support you on that one. And for those new kind of people who haven't been around too much, Susan Cole did an awesome article on medical marijuana, and a colleague of yours at St. John's. Thank you very much.
All right, others who wish to be heard? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the opportunity for a public comment, and that will take us to our next item, which is approval of our minutes from our last meeting. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Support.
All right, commissioners, any questions, comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to our petitions and communications.
The first one is a communication from Ryan Huppert regarding their resignation from the Urban Agricultural Committee.
That is referred to Committee on Appointments.
The second one is a communication from Thomas Kutsier regarding their resignation from the City Planning Commission.
That is referred to Committee on Appointments.
The third one, a communication received from the neighbors of Belknap Lookout expressing opposition to Housing Now Proposals 3, 8, and 9.
That is received and filed.
And then a communication received from the Hand Grown team regarding Cannabis Vita recommendations.
And that is also received and filed. All right, next that will take us to reports of city officers.
The first one is Comptroller's Report for the period of September 5, 2018 through September 11, 2018 in the amount of $8,418,009.09.
That is received and filed.
And Treasurer's Report for the period of September 1, 2018 through September 10, 2018.
And that is also received and filed. All right, next that will take us to our consent agenda. And on the consent agenda, you'll see items that we talked about earlier today in one of our meetings where there was a vote and the vote was unanimous. So tonight, with one voice vote, we'll adopt those items. So Commissioners, can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
All right, Commissioners, any questions, comments?
Mayor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just like to point people to the fiscal committee, 1 through 6, and recognize all of the new housing that is going to be available in the city of Grand Rapids, particularly around affordable living. So we were pleased to be able to move those forward this morning in the fiscal committee.
Great.
And I'd like to add to that, that those are going to result in $65,000 annually into our housing fund if they all get approved. So that pilot that we approved is doing its work.
Great. Thank you, Commissioners. All right, any other additional comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, and that will take us to our ordinances to be adopted tonight, and we have 3 ordinances before us, and we'll start with the first one.
First one is an ordinance amending Section 1 of the Budget Ordinance 2018-35 for fiscal year 2019, Amendment Number 5.
Support.
All right, Commissioner Jones, you want to tell us about this?
Yes, this morning in fiscal, we had a couple of items for a budget ordinance. One had to do with the transfer of a grant, receiving a grant on behalf of the fire department. Another was the moving of money from the general fund to a newly established special revenue fund. That too was a grant from the state of Michigan. There was also a transfer request for a position in the executive office as well as a developer deposit. There was no change in the contingent balance.
Great, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, any questions, comments? All right, this is a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruppert,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, and can I get a motion to give this immediate effect?
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, it will take us to our next ordinance tonight.
It's an adoption of ordinance to extend pilot mobile food truck ordinance.
So moved.
Support.
All right, Commissioner Kelly, you want to tell us about this?
Yes, and I'm going to try to get myself at the right place so people can hear me on this microphone. This ordinance extends a pilot mobile food truck ordinance that we put in place a couple of years ago. By this I mean pilot, not payment in lieu of taxes, as Commissioner Ruppert was just referencing in terms of our affordable housing opportunities. This is actually a pilot, as in experimental. And it turns out the goal of this was to allow for more of these small businesses to begin, many of which sometimes will turn into bricks and mortar businesses. And as it turns out, those restaurant openings have far outpaced the number of closings, dispelling the myth that mobile food businesses present a risk to the more permanent businesses. So we are thrilled that's working out. The pilot ordinance is set to expire this month. So we're going to go ahead and extend it up to the end of January, which is going to prevent that expiration and extend the effective period of the ordinance, allowing us to really have a full couple of years to see how this has worked and make any amendments as necessary.
Thank you. And Commissioner Kelly, did you all talk about, or are you aware of the process and when this will be brought back before us?
It is supposed to be coming to us in January because that's when this one will end, and there will be, I know that the DGRI is involved in this, so I'm assuming that they're going to be studying this fall, gathering data for us, and will present back to us probably in December.
Can I
Thanks.
add on to that?
Please.
So we've been meeting as a group, between DGRI, the fire department, the police department, as far as licensing and making sure that, because we do have a lot of food trucks that come in from other areas and especially with Art Prize coming on, that say, hey, that's a good idea, let's just bring our truck down there. Well, it doesn't quite work that way, and getting everybody, making sure that they're safe and that. So, the work group has been meeting, over the summer, well, actually all year. And so we'll be getting back together as a group as we go through it, and then also subgroups. And so, yeah, there's continuous meetings. I think we have another meeting next week or so on it, so.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. All right, commissioners, any other questions, comments? All right, this is a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier?
Yes.
Commissioner Reppert?
Yes.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes, and can I get a motion to give this immediate effect?
So moved?
Support.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, that will take us to our third ordinance to be adopted tonight.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 159 of Title 9 of the City Code entitled Fire Prevention to include the adoption of the 2018 edition of the International Fire Code.
All right, can I,
So moved?
Support.
all right, Commissioner Repart, you want to tell us about this?
Yes, so we're looking to keep the city as safe as possible in terms of our fire code. Really thankful that so many people showed up last week to advocate for the Polish halls and the public houses that this would impact. And so the recommendation is that we pass this so that it allows us to keep the highest rating that we have as a city. But it's also recommended that we're going to remove that retroactive requirement in the code for installing sprinkler systems in places of assembly serving alcohol to 300 persons or more. So the way to do that is to eliminate a subsection in the code, and then under the direction of the fire department, we're going to form a working group to be formed that'll look at the appropriateness of that and the best way to proceed. So the code helps us to keep everybody safe and maintain our high rating of standards, but this will allow us a little bit more time to work with those halls that provide such a great service to the community.
Great. Thanks, commissioners. Commissioners, any questions? I know the chief and Rick Doctor are with us tonight. Do you have any questions for either of them? Any comments? I know last week at our public hearing, we heard a lot of concerns from our halls and American Legions, and we wanted to be sure not to have a negative impact on the work that they do in our community. It sounds like a good solution has been found. I see the chief nodding. Chief, is there anything you want to add?
So thank you. Yeah, we did have some very good discussion. We did bring the halls and the affected members together prior to that open discussion. And I believe that in the end, we're going to be able to look at some creative ways that we can hopefully gain our ability to protect these buildings and to create a safer environment for those occupancies.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the chief? All right, thank you for your work. Appreciate it. All right, this is a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner Lanier?
Yes.
Commissioner Reppert?
Yes.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes. All right, next that will take us to city commission resolutions, and we have one item before us tonight, and in order to bring that up to on the table, I need a motion to suspend the rules.
So moved.
Support?
All right, all those in favor of suspending the rules say aye. Aye. Those opposed? It carries. Okay, so rules are suspended, and we'll read the first resolution. So we are suspending the rules because this morning at our city commission meeting, we talked about an item and made the decision to bring it back tonight. So can I get a reading of that resolution?
Sure. It's a city commission resolution enacting a moratorium on medical marijuana applications.
All right, can I get a motion?
So moved?
Support.
All right, Commissioner Jones, you want to tell us about this?
Sure. The resolution that has been spoken of is to enact a 6-month moratorium, March 18, 2019, on the acceptance and processing of marijuana facility land use applications. A moratorium is necessary due to a number of circumstances, including the fluid timeline relative to LARA licenses, rules, and procedures, the evolving practical process for processing potential applicants and avoidance of errors, potential necessary zoning ordinance modifications that will avoid applicant and public confusion, the consideration of a timeline that is feasible based on staff resources, providing the time for the city manager to promulgate appropriate administrative policies relative to the orderly processing of applicant payments and refunds, including but not limited to Administrative Policy 93-01 regarding the refunding of zoning fees, an additional city commission dialogue at its scheduled work session on October 9, 2018, to provide further policy direction to staff.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, anything to add? I know we talked quite a bit about this morning and the reason behind it. There's a number of complex issues that we still need to work through, and we were extremely concerned about the original November 1 date. So Commissioner Kelly?
Yes, I just want to make it clear that this is fluid, that March 18 date is in parentheses for a reason for us, because if we were able to get to a point where we can enact an ordinance sooner, we would certainly do so. This in no way is trying to circumvent the earlier decision around this table to move forward with medical marijuana facilities in the city that we voted on recently. This is just dealing with the realities that we found with the number of people that would like to apply for licenses, the desire on the part of some of our local businesses who we've heard from to have a little more time to get ready for it, to understand it well, and to be responsible applicants and do it accurately.
Thank you. And City Attorney, you weren't able to be with us this morning, but a question was posed about do we have the ability to leave it open-ended? Or do we need to put a specific amount of time, such as 6 months? Or can we just pass a moratorium? And this morning we were told that the recommendation legally is to have an amount or a time period included. Do you want to weigh in on that? Did Tom talk to you about that?
We did. We've been talking about it actually quite a bit. And so the law does require us to have an end date.
Oh, it does require.
Yes.
Okay.
So if we don't get at 6 months, which I don't think that we will, but if we do, then we can always do another one.
Okay.
But we do have to give an end date.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. All right, Commissioner Lanier?
Yeah, I just want Mayor to go on record to share that I think we are continuing to have a discussion that we are ill-equipped to have. And from my perspective, I think it would be best for us to wait until we have the meeting in October to determine the best timeline. Even the city attorney's comments about 6 months probably won't be enough is another sign that we're having a conversation or making a decision before we have enough information to make an adequate decision. So considering the next time we come together is a couple weeks from now, I get that we're trying to share with the public those people who may be interested in getting in business and asking questions. But I look at it and I think if we could wait 2 weeks, have a more robust discussion about this topic, then we can make hopefully an educated decision about the length of the moratorium. Because if we today make the decision that our city attorney has just informed us isn't enough time already.
Is that what you said?
That's how I interpret what you said about the 6 months, that you don't think that'll be enough. So if you don't think it'll be enough even now, then that means we're going to continue to have the discussion, which potentially could be a longer than 6 months, maybe it's shorter. But whatever it is, I think none of us are sure. And we have not had a conversation about marijuana, medical marijuana, since our last discussion. And we're just, in my opinion, taking a stab in the dark of a timeline that we think is best. So I'm not supportive of this because I think we are making yet another uninformed decision on a topic that I think is too important to have, so.
Thank you. City Attorney, I may have misunderstood you. I thought I heard you think we may be able to get to a resolution before the 6 months. I'm hopeful 6 months is plenty of time to work through the details that we have to.
Right. Correct. So what I said is we can do the 6 months. I'm hoping or thinking we won't take the 6 months. But if we get to that point and we need more time, we can always do another one.
Which says we don't know if 6 months is enough time. Once again, we're just pulling something out of the air and throwing it out there. And I think we should have a more robust discussion, then talk about the moratorium, how much time would be the best amount of time to press pause.
Okay.
Because we'll just
Yeah.
continue to have this conversation over and over again.
All right, thank you, commissioners. Others who weigh, and one other thing we talked about this morning that was earlier on our agenda is we do have a 2.5-hour work session coming up in October where we will be diving into the details around the medical marijuana ordinance. Commissioners, anyone else who wants to weigh in before I call the question on this? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Nay. It carries. All right, next that will take us to our final opportunity for public comment tonight. So if you are here to speak about anything else that's on your heart or mind, I'll be opening up that public comment period. A couple things, same rules apply. We ask that you share your name, the city that you live in, and then we'll give you up to 3 minutes to speak. And you can keep an eye on that right here. So this public comment period is now open. You can come right up here to this podium. Again, we ask that you write your name down so that we have it recorded accurately. Hi, welcome.
Hi. Nice to see you again. My name is Matt Hoffman. And one moment.
See, you were setting that.
Yeah, once again, I'm Matt Hoffman. I live in Grand Rapids on the southeast side. So nice to see you again, Honorable Mayor Bliss and Commissioners. Thank you for taking the time to hear our voices tonight. I must say, as the marijuana policy project speaker in Michigan and as a chairman in the National Cannabis Industry Association, that I'm disappointed in the moratorium that we have today. But I'm not before you as one of those people. I'm before you as a representative, not as a representative of an industry, but as a local business owner. My business connects job seekers with cannabis employers, and we've suffered a tremendous blow. I find myself as a community resource of hope and opportunity, wrestling with how I will explain to hundreds of would-be cannabis industry employees that they must now wait up to 6 months for gainful employment. Furthermore, that candidates have begun making the life-altering processes preparing to onboard into a new vocation, only to find that their employment is now jeopardized by this unnecessary delay. If companies are struggling to find viable properties and complete the required waivers, then the undue suffering to job seekers, patients, applicants, and ancillary service providers is brought on by this commission, by this commission's restrictive permissive zones. I urge this commission during this 6 months interval to expand the allowable area. As always, I'm Matt Hoffman. I speak for myself, my people, and my industry. My door is always open, and I'm a phone call away. I submitted the VITA proposal recommendation to the city clerk, and I just want to reiterate that as a cannabis industry expert and resource, that we are here again extending the olive branch and saying that we are invested in the community and that we want to form lasting and sustainable partnerships with the leaderships, meaning you. So if there's anything that you need from us, we're happy to oblige. We're seeking a working relationship, and we understand the fog of uncertainty and the complexities surrounding our industry. And as industry leaders and experts, we're here to provide our insights to you. So again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Good evening. My name is Rena Baker. I live and vote in Grand Rapids. I am here tonight with a group of citizens to address a most important topic concerning local government, low voter turnout in city elections. We come before you to share this issue publicly and to demand action on your part. We will outline the problem and our proposed solution. The problem is a system of voter suppression that purposefully ensures low voter turnout. The proposed solution is to move city elections to even number years and to consolidate the operation of elections with Kent County. This will not only save the city over $100,000 in each election cycle, but will also immediately increase the voter turnout by more than 38%. We believe the city of Grand Rapids should lead in the state of Michigan by enacting meaningful local election reform that is empowering and inclusive of all voters. You have the opportunity to take this city up to the next level, to be the city with the largest voter participation of any city its size in the nation. We hope that you will be the leaders that you should be. Tonight, we will publicly share the objections that have been raised privately by certain city commissioners, and we will rebut those objections with verifiable data. We'll ask you to take action before the end of 2018 by enacting a resolution moving city election for city office to even number years. And if this body fails to do so before the end of 2018, then we will take matters into our hands, as we did over local term limits. You did not like the result when the voters took matters into their own hands, wrote the new city charter on term limits, and placed the question directly before the voters, who imposed term limits upon you against your will. Now in 2018, you have the opportunity to avoid making the same mistake a second time. For if you take action on your own, you can shape what the process for local elections continue to look like in this city. But if we are forced to take matters into our hands, then we will have the control to design what the process for local election will look like in this city. The choice is yours. We are asking you to do the right thing for the citizens of Grand Rapids. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Oh, sir, please, no clapping, please. There's rules on the front of the agenda. We want to make sure that everyone feels really comfortable here, and if somebody is here with an opposing view, we want to give them a chance to speak as well. So. Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Hello, good evening. My name is Mark Petzold, and I live and vote in the city of Grand Rapids. Tonight, our group will address low voter turnout in city elections. Currently and historically, the city holds elections for offices of mayor and city commissioners in odd number years. However, we have a new opportunity. In 2012, the Michigan legislature passed a new law that gave cities a new tool, the power to move elections to even years. Cities never had this tool at their disposal before, but they do now. Why should this body consider moving the elections to even number years? First, there's the issue of voter turnout in city elections held on odd number years. During the primary elections, the voter turnout was 9% of the registered voters. Likewise, on odd years, the voter turnout in the general election is 16%. In contrast, the elections in the even number years in this city involving the same voters, the voter turnout is 21% of the registered voters in the primary elections, and voter turnout is 63% of the registered voters in the general elections. The difference of the voter turnout is dramatic. I'm asking you to listen close as I say this again. That's 9% versus 21% in the primary, and 16 versus 63 in the general. This means that with a single resolution, this body could immediately increase the number of voters who participate in local elections. If this body moves the elections of the city office from odd number years to even number of years, with a stroke of a pen, that would be reasonable for this city to expect a 38% increase in the number of voters that participate in deciding who represents them in this body. Doesn't that sound like the right thing to do? Then there's the issue of the fiscal responsibility. When the city runs elections on the odd number of years, it pays the full cost to run those elections. But when the voters come out to the polls to cast their votes in the even number of years, the city pays nothing. Let me say that again, they pay nothing to run those elections. The cost has already been paid by the county. We obtain the annual budgets from the city clerk office. We have the budget numbers to verify the city spends over $100,000 for each local election just for the salaries of the precinct workers alone. This does not count the valuable time spent by the staff running elections in odd years. Wouldn't it be better for the city clerk to spend valuable time elsewhere, perhaps registering more people to vote that are eligible to vote, or promoting absentee voting? Whatever your priorities are for the city clerk. This proposal for moving the city elections from odd years to even years makes sense. As good public policy, it would dramatically increase voter participation in local elections and would end unnecessary spending of taxpayer dollars that could be better spent, or check this out, maybe even saved. We're asking you to do the right thing for the citizens of Grand Rapids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pessel. All right, others wish to be heard? Hi.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Petzold, and I live and vote in the city of Grand Rapids. Before deciding to attend tonight's meeting, our group met individually with each member of this body to propose this method of increased voter participation. Some commissioners voiced agreement and support, and we appreciate those responses from those commissioners and the positive responses from the influential minority leaders of our city. But other commissioners immediately opposed the idea of increased voter turnout in our local election. Why would anyone here resist increased representation? The commissioners who opposed the idea, in particular Commissioner Lanier and Commissioner O'Connor, each voiced reasons why they were in opposition to simply doing the right thing. We plan on taking some time tonight to address the arguments made by Commissioner Lanier and Commissioner O'Connor against the increased voter involvement. We know that this body often speaks of valuing data-driven decision-making, and we will take some time tonight to explain, through actual data, the objections voiced by Commissioner Lanier and Commissioner O'Connor are ill-founded misrepresentations. Our presentation will focus on a key issue, the voter participation numbers in our wards and precincts. We hope this data clears up the commissioners' misperceptions and sheds light on the true issues before this body and this community. We are asking you tonight to do the right thing for the citizens of Grand Rapids.
Thank you, Ms. Pessel.
Good evening. My name is Mike Farage. I live and vote in the city of Grand Rapids. I don't think that's a surprise. When our group met, I was very surprised to hear that Commissioner Lanier was opposed to this. During her victory party, I was called her volunteer extraordinaire. We walked on Okemos Avenue in Shawnee and talked about this, specifically getting more females involved as well as minorities involved in the process here in the city of Grand Rapids, getting them to run and getting them to be active. If we take a look at the 3rd Ward alone, in 2016's general election where I was a candidate and got completely annihilated in the 3rd Ward, which most of you would be happy about, 50% or so came out to vote. Towards just last year, there was 15%. You have control right here of this vote. This is suppressing the vote, especially in the minority areas where this city, which is a leading city, and you are leaders too. You have taken a step forward in this, in moving us forward. But suppressing the vote, especially in certain areas where people can't vote all the time, where the factual data indicate that they will come out, that there is a higher number, not only as far as voting, but as candidates. I mean, look at the board we have right now compared to, say, 10 years ago. I don't want to get into the X's and O's, but this is something that needs to be passed. And the last thing we really want is another war or another battle to whereas everyone suffers. I am asking you, please do not suppress the vote, especially in the black and brown areas of the 3rd Ward, and pass this. No, you know what? I'm actually almost begging you to do this. This is the right thing. And you are all leaders. Lead by example. Show the other cities not just what we're capable of doing economically, but what we're capable of doing when it comes to standing above the rest. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fresh. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Do I really need to sign that?
I think if you would, just Mike, we just want to make sure that we have your name down right. We're not sure if our new city clerk knows you as well as us. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Catherine Mish, and I live and vote in the city of Grand Rapids. First, I have to say I'm sorry that Commissioner O'Connor is not present for tonight's meeting because I prepared my remarks in anticipation of his being present. But I will deliver my remarks irrespective of his absence. I was not present, but it was reported to me that when this group and our representatives approached First Ward Commissioner O'Connor with this idea of moving city elections to even-numbered years, he argued that moving city elections to the even-numbered years would make the ballot longer and too confusing for the average voter to understand. Pause and reflect on that comment for a moment. The implication from the commissioner's remarks are basically that he thinks the voters are too simple, too uneducated, too unintelligent, and too unsophisticated to understand who the candidates for local office are. I believe that's an elitist attitude that denigrates the intelligence and dignity of our city's voters. Of course, I disagree with the commissioner on this point. In fact, I remember, most of you were not on the board at the time, so perhaps you don't remember, but I remember when this body fired its prior city clerk, 2 city clerks ago, after a difficult election night with long waits in certain minority precincts. This body fired its city clerk in part because some members of this body interpreted her public remarks to express or imply a belief that certain voters in certain precincts were incapable of reading and understanding a long ballot. I had a front row seat during that whole process. I was sitting right there at the left elbow of Mayor Hartwell. And I remember the outrage expressed by certain members of this body that a city official of any level would argue that voters were too simple, too uneducated, too unintelligent, too unsophisticated to understand what they were voting on, even when the ballot was longer than normal or double-sided. If such a proposition is improper for a city clerk to state, it is doubly improper for a city commissioner to state. Shame on John O'Connor for making that argument. The citizens of the First Ward and of the entire city deserve city commissioners who do not disparage the voters as being too unintelligent to understand the questions that come before them at the polls on election night. Our voters are better than you think they are. We are asking you tonight to do the right thing for the citizens of Grand Rapids.
Thank you, Ms. Mish. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Good evening. My name is Bonnie Burke. I live and vote in Grand Rapids. All 3 women on this board in office tonight were here in March of 2014 when Rena Baker and I asked you to put the issue of term limits on the ballot and let voters decide if they want term limits for our city. My parting sentence to you was, you may place it on the ballot or we will gather signatures to get it on the ballot, but one way or the other, it will be done. It will go on the ballot. I'm guessing that none of you thought we could do it or would do it. It was a formidable task. And we were an army of 2, but we collected over 10,000 signatures and it went on the ballot. Our advantage was that the very voters who elect you overwhelmingly supported limiting your terms. Term limits may not have been to your liking, but when brought to the people who elect you, the voters made the decision. And by not placing it on the ballot, you lost control of the ballot language. Now we come to tonight's issue. You have heard as to why it is the right thing to do. Anyone serving in public office today who is not interested in legally increasing voter participation and saving taxpayer money should not be serving. We would all benefit by removing you from office or voting you out. Tonight, by agreeing to move elections to an even year by the end of this year, you can make that happen. You fill out a form from the Michigan Municipal League and file it with the state of Michigan. Your terms would be extended by 1 year. You will save taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars, increase voter participation, and give minorities a larger voice in the community, and you keep control. But if you are unwilling, we the citizens will take it to the voters and put it on the ballot. We will get the job done again. But we won't stop at only one issue. We will be circulating 2 signature petitions. The first is for voters to decide on even year elections, and the second is for voters to decide to change the city charter to require that all of your positions will be determined in an even year November general election. This will eliminate any victory in an August primary when voter turnout is very low. You will be giving up control over how to shape the result of this process, and you will be placing that control into our hands. I predict that voters will see advantages to both issues and will again overwhelmingly support both issues. One way or the other, the change for better governance will move forward. Either you make it happen or we take it to the voters. The choice is yours. We're asking you to do the right thing for the citizens of Grand Rapids. And before I leave the lectern, I would ask that anyone here who is in support of this raise your hand. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Burke. All right, others wish to be heard?
Yes, I wish to be heard.
Hi, welcome.
Okay, thank you. My name is Tom Grego, and I'm a city resident. And I've just heard a number of your constituents present a reasonable, legitimate, sane, cost-saving argument for changing the time of the elections. It's something that should have been done quite a while ago, and it's amazing to me that the citizens have to bring this to your attention. You people sitting up on the dais there should have a brainstorm and come up with the idea to change these election dates. It's going to save the city money and get more people out at the election time. A typical response by the city commission might be to ignore this request, do nothing about it like many politicians do, kick the can down the road. Politicians are good at that. You can see it in our federal government. You know, and I used to come to these commission meetings years ago when I remember Ms. Bliss. She was a commissioner. And I could recall other requests that were ignored, or you know, people were blown off, citizens were blown off like whipped cream. And that's not right. And you guys know it. If you got any kind of conscience at all, you know it. So I'm asking, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? Yeah, don't talk.
Well, Mr. Grego, this is a time for us to listen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope you're listening.
We
I
are.
hope it's sinking in.
I assure you we're
because
listening.
It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous that this hasn't been done, like I said years ago. Forgive me for not having much faith or hope in this body to honor this request because of my past experience with this body. And I know it's not the same people, just a few of you are on the commission that were here a few years ago. But what's it going to take to get some action out of you guys? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grego. Good to see you. All right, others who wish to be heard? Hi, welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Richard Joby. This is my first city commission meeting.
Welcome.
And I'm a small business owner. And when you're a small minority business owner, you don't have time for meetings. You're too busy trying to keep the doors open.
Yeah.
But I'm compelled to be here tonight because a lot of my customers in my business have been concerned about the knowledge that the new medical marijuana is coming to Grand Rapids. And I tried to get them to come to the meeting with me, but they are pessimistic that they think it's only going to be business as usual. You know, there's going to be no slice of the pie for us. And I believe in Grand Rapids. So I'm just here to compel the city council to, when it comes to the smaller operations that might be established, possibly, hopefully, we're praying that there'll be something in it for us, the smaller guy that's having a hard time paying his taxes. And not just for the big boys and the business as usual kind of, you know, the big liquor store, the kinds of money that you have to have for liquor stores and entertainment establishments and stuff. We can't afford that stuff anymore. So if you just keep us in mind on the ground floor, we could really use your help. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks for coming. Hi, welcome.
Good evening. My name is George Noble. Many of you don't know me. I'm not a regular attender here, but I live in Grand Rapids and I vote here. I live in the 2nd Ward, and you've been my commissioner. I'm glad I attended the meeting here tonight. What I've heard is a lot of grassroots citizens that seem to have a good idea. This is a good idea to change and go the even years. The financial thing had me convinced right there that if we're spending dollars to run elections on an off year and we can save money for the city to use somewhere else and to where your purposes are in good faith to do that for us, that's a wise thing to do. That alone convinced me, the financial. Being from a Dutch type community, growing up here, I'm very proud of Grand Rapids. I live and have served here all my life after I got out of the service. Many people, some of the people here behind me know who I am, but my wife and I, from Grand Rapids, very proud of this area, proud of West Michigan. This is a wonderful place to live and to grow and to raise a family. I was educated here, have a small business, like my brother mentioned. Not one of the big breweries or anything. Used to be furniture city. Now we're brewery city. And the growth, the new, it was mentioned, the new apartments. I'm thinking Michigan Street, over on Bridge Street, the new stuff that's going up around town. Getting across town's not easy anymore if you're driving a car or trying to ride a bus. It's difficult here, but this is a wonderful place to people to come. We have businesses that have inspired a lot of growth here, Steelcase, Amway, Myers. You know, you all know what I know, but this is a good idea, and it's coming from the grassroots. And I think that when people hear it like I've heard it here tonight, I had no idea what this is about. This should be examined and really considered by all the commissioners here. I just plead that you really take a good hard look at this. What would be the problem with just changing the dates and going and trying it? If for some reason it was a problem for the commissioner who's not here, maybe you could always go back and readjust it or tinker with it a little bit. But I think it's a good idea. You should consider it. No intimidation, no threats. People say, well, we did this, we're going to try to do that. That's not the way to handle this kind of governing of our people here in the city. It's not Chicago. We do have some shootings. I'm glad the police and the fire represent us here. I happen to be connected with the courts. I know that we have a lot of peaceful, good areas here. We want to keep it that way. So thank you for listening to me tonight. I'm going to be out here working and watching with my family and our neighbors, and I hope you do the right thing. This is a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Noble, and thank you for your service. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Watch Doug Miller back. $100,000 a year is not a big deal. It's all surrounding area. And the problem was, many of these distinguished citizens, including Rena. Rena originally came out for, she forced a bus shelter at $7,000 a year without doing any homework on it at all. And $7,000 for bus shelter. You go out to Cello's on the county line out Lake Michigan. I put up a marvelous smoker's hut for all $1,500 in expenses. So every smoker's hut in town is better than the bus shelters we have with the double gaps. I think they would be poorly served that voters are going to be doing more research in an off year. I think it's a marvelous, over in Illinois, they use off years generally. We do have machine politics here in the city commission. One commissioner after another comes out of GRPS. Ed Kettle's involved in a lot of these elections, but I think these citizens on the left who have run for office would be better served on off years where the public could fully examine their position. But on the last election, I was still figuring out, well, now who the heck am I going to vote for president? I went back with one of the candidates, and even the down ballot, you never get any big articles on the down ballot positions until maybe the Sunday before the election. And so their interests would be well served. Just a philosophical disagreement here, but their interests would be well served in off years when the public can focus on their credentials and focus on their programs. Now, how big a deal is $100,000? Well, you're wasting $45 million to beautify the Grand River. You have a problem. Perfectly good blue water. You want to turn perfectly blue waters to white. That's 4,500 times more than $100,000. Next, over at Lion Square, where I was threatened arrest for lawful First Amendment petitioning, $450,000 there you want to arrest. It's 4 times more. Same thing, you want to beautify Calder Plaza, about the same price. Then let's go over to Veterans Park. You blew over $1 million in Veterans Park, and it was just 10 times more. And both bus shelters on both sides of the streets have disappeared. And a key transfer stop at the Park Church has disappeared. Also, let's go to the $70 million Laker line boom. I think the biggest recasting law, distinguished citizen Catherine Mitchell asked, well, she had GVSU across her. GVSU is the most despised institution on the Lower West Side of Grand Rapids. They want a boondoggle. You want to blow $70 million.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Your time's up. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Hi.
Good
welcome.
evening. My name's Steve Redmond. I consider Grand Rapids my hometown. I grew up here. My mother went to school here many years ago. I was educated by the good Dominican nuns over at St. Thomas, and I went to school and spent most of my life here in Grand Rapids. Currently, my three of my children live and work here, and they couldn't be here tonight. They're out working, paying taxes. But I'm here on their behalf, and I really do support this idea of eliminating the odd-year elections. I've been involved in some political circles, and I know that school boards always love to do odd times of the year when people aren't paying attention, like in August, to have elections, and they get all their troops lined up. And that's how they really kind of push things through without a full participation of all the voters that often wonder what happened. And I think this would be a really good thing for the commission to do. I don't believe $100,000 is chump change. In 10 years, it's $1 million. $1 million can do a lot of things to help small businesses, to improve transportation, to make sure that you don't have problems with your storm sewers, flushing garbage down to Ottawa County, where I live. A lot of things can be done with scarce resources, and I encourage you, as all public officials, to make good use of scarce resources. And if you can save $100,000 per election cycle, that will be a boon. But the bigger issue is more voter participation. When we reduce voter participation, we reduce the impact that citizens can have on their government. And often we tell people that your vote is your voice. But if we still those voices by holding elections at times and places that people aren't going to be paying attention, then we stifle their voice. We stifle their opportunity to participate in our republic. And I encourage you to look at this seriously and consider if this could be something that you could get behind, because it sounds like a number of citizens are going to do something, whether you do or not. And I encourage you to be proactive and to I guess in terms of my training as a public administrator, co-opt the issue. Support it before it's rammed down your throats. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Redmond. All right, others who wish to be heard? Hi, welcome.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Chosen Rhodes. Oh, that's loud. And this is my first time actually speaking at a event like this, so I'm going to try to make this as concise as possible, but I am a little nervous. I'm a college student. I live in Grand Rapids. I'm 19 years old, and I'm attempting to major in physiology and become a college professor and teach anatomy at some sort of great university, hopefully. I love science, and because of that, I'm inclined to know about the human body because that's where I'm majoring in. And in knowing about the human body, I like to know what helps it and what hurts it. And despite past stigma in history, I know that medical marijuana is significantly better for the body than a lot of people would like to make it out to be. I'm sure you all know the benefits. Somebody before me, I think it was one of the first people that came up here to speak, talked about the restrictions that we're facing, which is what's putting a hold on actually allowing vendors to create these facilities for people to buy this medicine. And I'd just like to say that I used to work at the YMCA in high school, and I would help the people with physical therapy, and what I would see there is that people were wildly inconvenienced from getting this medicine that could significantly help them out more than any pill could, because they didn't have any vendors here in Grand Rapids. They had to venture out to Kalamazoo or et cetera, to get this medicine to help them out. And I know that legalization of medical marijuana and us selling it here in Grand Rapids is imminent, but easing up on these restrictions, specifically with proximity, because from what I've heard, they police these things harder than they police liquor stores with the regulations, if I'm well educated on that. Harkening back on these restrictions and getting this medicine to the people that need it as soon as possible, aside from the economical booms that Grand Rapids would face, would significantly help the population and the people that need it, veterans with PTSD, people that are recovering from car accidents and all these other events that could happen to them that life inconveniences us with. So I just hope you hear me out, and that's my speech.
Thank you. Thank you, Chosen. You did a fine job. All right, others who wish to be heard? Hi, welcome.
My name's Aaron Smith. I'm from Muskegon, Michigan. I just wanted to touch on a couple things related to the medical marijuana. First, being there was kind of an assumption that people weren't going to be ready by November 1st for an application in Grand Rapids, and I found that not to really be true. There were a lot of us that were already state pre-qualified, as well as gone through the process, secured property, invested a lot of time and capital. So I just kind of wanted to let you guys know that. The second thing is about the application process. I know there's been talk about potentially removing pre-qualification status from the state. And I think there's a couple examples, more than a couple examples, just in the state of Michigan right now in municipalities where this has kind of backfired on them, where individuals and businesses have been able to go in and receive municipality licenses. Only when they go to the state, they've been denied. So what ends up happening is you get individuals that have tied up licenses as well as buildings, and once they go to the state, you know, they're pretty much stuck. So you're gonna have an empty building and you're gonna have an individual with a license that he can't use. The other thing I would like to make clear on that as well with the pre-quals is that's only going to add more time to this whole process, because if you take that off of the ordinance, you're going to get a lot of individuals. I mean, it's already kind of a slow process with the state and just all the municipalities, but you're going to get a lot more individuals that are going to be applying for licenses. And what happens is a lot of times, a lot of them they don't have the capital or the business in the background to kind of actually make it happen, so it just makes the whole process longer, and I know that's kind of one of the big issues. I just want to touch on those points. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. All right, others who wish to be heard? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close that opportunity for public comment, and I will turn to my colleagues for their comments tonight, and I'll start down here. Actually, I think I'm going to start down here with Commissioner Jones since we're in the second ward. Sorry, I look this way, but I think I'm going to change my mind and turn over here. Commissioner Jones?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to take a moment to first and foremost thank Sister Maureen Geary and the nuns of the Dominican Center for having us out here once again for our meeting. It's always good to be in the second ward. I think that all of my colleagues would agree with that. It's always good to be in the second ward. Yeah. And also want to thank everyone who came out this evening, and whether you had something to say or you were just sat, the fact that you were here, that your presence was important. And for those who came for the first time, would ask that this not be your last time when it comes to attending city commission meetings. Again, your presence means a lot, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Lanier?
To Commissioner Kelly? Since
No,
she said-
that's okay. I'll go this
Before I
side.
do the same thing with Commissioner Rephart. And then, thanks everyone for being here tonight. I just want to pitch one thing. We had flyers at one of our tables about sex trafficking victims, and so we have a chance to donate hygiene items for sex trafficking victims. And I'll pass this on to my colleagues, and the magnets that we had made to, I'm a part of a work group that's working on bringing sex trafficking awareness to the city of Grand Rapids, because it's real, it's happening, and we need to do something to address it. And so I'm going to pass these down to my colleagues. And please spread the word, because the more contributions we receive, but for making sure that we provide support to victims, the better for them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you for your
Oh,
work.
and thanks to everyone who came out and the comments that were made this evening as well. Thanks.
Yes, thanks. And I will add my thanks to you for your work on the Human Trafficking and Sex Trafficking Task Force. All right, Commissioner Kelly?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all for coming tonight. I know some of you traveled all the way from another ward to come to ours, so you are welcome. It's not terribly far, but also thank you, Sister Maureen. I'm a proud, where'd she go? She's gone. Anyway, pass on my thanks to her. I'm a proud graduate of Aquinas College. And please give my regards to Sister Alice Wittenbach. I understand she took a fall again. I'm very sad to hear that. Appreciate again all of you being here, and encourage you to go to Art Prize. You will find that there's a booth that Commissioner Lanier put up at Art Prize on this topic that we all need to be much more aware about, and would encourage you too to read information about sex trafficking, because when there are huge events like this that come to cities like ours, that's when sex trafficking happens. So if you can identify, call the police, let somebody know that they can be safe if they talk to you, please do so.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Moody?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is an exciting evening for me, because this is my first commission night out.
And you survived.
And I was excited to see the booths in the back as I came in, or in the front. Just to add to that, it's exciting to have all of you here tonight and to hear your comments. I do believe, as a elected official, which I am an appointed official at this point in time, that the people do have the power to elect, but at the same time, once you elect us, you also have to listen to us as well too. I strongly believe that we have the power to listen to the community. The community has to say so as to what we do, but I strongly also believe that it takes a collaborative effort for everybody to come together and make a decision as to what direction our community should go in.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Park?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for coming out as well. One thing I should have said earlier is to be celebrated is the establishment of this rental assistance center that we voted on this morning, where we're going to be able to help folks who are having trouble finding a place that will rent to them. So I think that that's very exciting. And then I also think it's important to say our thanks and congrats to Teresa Weatherall Neal, who announced her retirement this week. She's been an incredible gift to Grand Rapids Public Schools, and and she's served this city well. So my congrats and thanks to her.
Thank you. City Attorney? City Manager?
I kind of do today. So, thank you. So it was about 7 months ago that I began working with you as interim city manager. And so we kind of celebrated that meeting a little bit, and this is my last meeting as your interim city manager, because Mark Washington will be here October 1st, and his first meeting will be October 9th. And I can't tell you that how happy that makes me. So, in a lot of ways. So I'm happy for us to have a man like him to serve us in this capacity. I'm happy for our community. I'm happy for all of you, because I think he made a great choice, and I'm looking forward to working with him. And so, you know, when I took over as interim, I said that we would keep things going. I said that I would work tirelessly on your behalf. I said that I would do, that we wouldn't miss a step. And I think most of the plates are still spinning, and I think we did okay. And I did my best to live into that promise. And along the way, I had a lot of help from our appointed officials, who I want to thank, and from our staff members, many of whom are here tonight, because it was an interim period for them as well. And they responded to me and to my leadership based upon your direction, and I think we've come out of this really well. So I'm very happy to have be able to turn over an organization to Mark Washington that's ready for his leadership, and I'm looking forward to our next steps together. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So in closing, I want to thank everyone for coming out as well. Also, I want to thank Marywood. This place has a really special place in my heart. Having worked at St. John's Home for 12 years and having the opportunity to work closely with the sisters here as they kept St. John's and all of the children there in their prayers. This place is a very, very special place, and the history that they have in our city and all of the children and the families that they have touched is really it's hard to capture in words. So I'm glad that we're here tonight because I love this place. And then I will add my thanks to Eric for serving as interim. I think we're all excited to welcome our new city manager to our city, both as a community but also to City Hall. If you didn't hear, we'll be having an oath of office ceremony for him on October 9th at 6 p.m. at City Hall in the 9th floor chambers. So if you are available to join us for that, you are welcome to come to be a part of that experience, but also to meet him. And then throughout the rest of this year, throughout the fall, he'll be out and about in the community. I know his number one priority is to build relationships, get to know all of you, as well as city employees, and get his head around the organization. So hopefully that will work for your schedule, and we'll see you again in a couple weeks at City Hall. So with that, I hope you all have a good night and safe travels. We're adjourned.